Warning. If you think this is one of those religious and mythical sermons,
فيا عباد الله اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah. Today, with the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we got a grain of rice to feed a homeless chicken.
you're clearly mistaken. This show is for the Muslim hustler who is sick of hearing all that. We're just gonna say it as it is and keep it real.
Hi, welcome to the show. Thanks for tuning in. Today we have a very interesting topic, a very controversial topic actually, I would say. We will briefly touch on the basic elements and fundamentals of hijab and how it got lost in translation. We will discuss the twisted and misunderstood applications of it and highlight why many people are totally missing the point, hence the message being lost in translation. We're gonna break it down, the criteria and the context of which it should be applied to, and nothing of the mythical stuff here, just keeping it real. Let's start with the basics first and get that out of the way. When I mention the word hijab, in most people's mind, an image of a woman in a scarf will appear, and sometimes wearing loose clothing like a jilbab or something, which is an acceptable stereotype, but that is not hijab. Hijab in Arabic means a barrier, but more specifically, I will call it a visual barrier. Something is blocking you from seeing it. The problem, however, is when people seem to conclude that the so-called Islamic way of dressing, or hijab in this case, is for all women to be wrapped up. And the biggest problem is when they start saying things like, Allah says women should cover up with scarves. And then they start quoting you this ayah and that hadith, and say things like, God will send an angel to curse you, or you will burn in hellfire if you don't. And some would go to an extreme extent of calling you an infidel. So none of that is actually true. And the worst part is, after hearing all that, they start forcing their wives, sisters, children to just blindly obey. For God's sake, here's my message to them, and please listen up carefully. No one is to judge a person except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when does He judge? Judgment Day. Not in dunya, in akhirah is when He judge, for God's sake. If God can delay Satan's punishment for defiance, then these guys are what? Better than God? They can immediately pass judgment. There's no room for tawbah, no room for mercy. Fuck off, man. Why do they make Allah sound so ruthless, throwing people in hellfire to burn their flesh just because they didn't wear the scarf? That is something even Satan wouldn't do. Satan, he just guides you the way there. You make the decision, you call the shots. That's it. Innani bari, inni akhafu Allah. Even Satan fears Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Someone recently asked me, why is this hijab topic so confusing and controversial? My answer to him was simple. It is because of the scholars themselves. They're so busy debating on the parameters of which is permissible and which is not, referring to books written by men hundreds or even thousands of years ago. And most importantly, the biggest problem right now is that they are politicizing religion. I shall not get into the details of it at this point. Perhaps maybe a different episode for it. So while they're doing that, let me try to make some sense and share my perspectives of it, hopefully to put this whole debate to rest once and for all. Let's dive in. First, let me ask, what is the objective of hijab? What's the point of it? So, the one thing that all scholars agree on this issue is that the objective is to cover the Aurah, which could potentially lead to like non-matrimonial lust, adultery or whatever, which I disagree. Yes, I disagree, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But first, let me tell you what Aurah is. The Aurah, according to these guys, these scholars, is the area of the body which skin should not be shown or revealed to the public. For men, it's from the belly button to the knee. And for women, it's everything except for her face and her hands during prayers. عورة الرجل من السرة إلى الركبة والمرأة كلها عورة إلا وجهها وكفيها في الصلاة. That totally doesn't make sense to me. If it's only within the context of prayers, then yes, I agree, but not beyond that context. They also say that women need to wear the hijab in front of any man other than her muhrim, as in her husband, her brother, uncle, grandpa, whatever, the list goes on. Up till this point, their definition of hijab is a scarf or a jilbab. Okay? Okay, cool. Now let me tell you why I disagree. They said that one of the objectives of the hijab is to cover the aurah to prevent non-matrimonial lust, and that a woman does not need to wear a hijab in front of a muhrim, right? Cool. Okay. So I want you to imagine something right now, a scenario. Let's go on a fantasy trip.
Imagine that you're at the beach. There's no one there. Just you alone, chilling. You see a lady walking towards your direction. She's not in any way related to you. Just a random lady. Slim, petite, walking slowly by the beach, enjoying the sunset breeze, one step at a time, taking her own sweet time, dipping her feet in the water. She looks at you and she smiles at you. She slowly walks behind a tree. She starts taking her clothes off. Slowly. She takes off her top, then her bottom. She's standing there totally naked, butt naked. And there's no one there, just you and her. Then she bends down, and you're looking at her, and you're just looking at her. She's as wrinkled as a dry raisin. Her boobs are as saggy as a bag of Skittles. Her nipples are like cashew nuts sticking out of an Oreo cookie. She's 100 years old. She's someone's great-grandma. Like her kids have grandkids. Now you tell me, is she supposed to wear a fucking hijab? Would she turn you on less if she was wearing a hijab? I mean, imagine if she was wearing a scarf. Would it make a difference? If your answer is yes, stop listening to this right now and go find a psychiatrist. You need therapy. For God's sake. This is the reason why I disagree with their definition, and I think my definition of it is more accurate. Aurah is the part of you which has the potential to turn the opposite gender on, regardless if some skin or hair is shown or not. And I think that is the purpose of hijab. You know, like the things which make you go, damn. In a good way, of course. Not the Willy Wonka grandma mentioned earlier. So hijab is not a scarf. Hijab is not just covering up the skin. It's much more than that. Part of hijab is actually self-awareness. Remember, the objective of hijab is modesty. That is the objective of hijab, is modesty. Now every country has different modesty threshold, and depending on where you are, you draw the line. For example, if you're in Saudi Arabia, it's different if you're in Iran, and it's different if you're in Asia, and it's different if you're in the West, and so on and so forth. Different local cultures do play a part in drawing the lines. but the criteria must remain the same. The criteria of hijab, there are criteria of course for hijab, must remain the same in order to maintain the integrity of the objective, regardless of where you are. Now let's list down the entire criteria. Number 1, it should not be revealing. Number 2, it should not be descriptive. Number 3, it should not be attractive, or more accurately, provocative. That's it. That's the entire list. That's the entire criteria. It should not be revealing, it should not be descriptive, and it should not be provocative. That is the criteria. Now let me elaborate. It should not be revealing. You can't show your cleavage, girls. That will bring unnecessary attention. That could potentially, turn someone on. Especially if you have bigger boobs. Number 2, it should not be descriptive. And I mean those tight ass pants and tight ass tops that shows your lines and all. No, none of that. It should not be attractive or provocative, basically. For example, I give you an example, yeah? Wearing a t-shirt which says, "I'm a bitch," for example. Is that hijab? That's not modesty. Telling the whole world you're a bitch? If you're a bitch, just shut the fuck up. So based on that criteria, a girl wearing a jacket and some soccer mom jeans is hijab in the US, but that's not hijab in Saudi Arabia. You get the point. Okay? It is worth mentioning, however, regardless of which country you're in, ladies, don't wear push-up bras if you have big boobs. Don't wear them yoga pants if you have a big ass. Especially if you're wearing a scarf. Please, 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 please. It's embarrassing. I've seen people wear these things which make me say, what the fuck are they thinking? Don't try to find excuses to justify your shitty sense of style. You're finding loopholes against God. Oh, this is not too tight. This is nude color, but I'm still covering skin. I mean, come on, this is for real, guys. Okay, so that's it from us today. I hope you've enjoyed it and gained a new perspective. In the next episode, we'll be discussing about another controversial topic, which is polygamy. Fucking cool stuff, I'm sure you'll love it. Please don't forget to share this episode with someone you know. It helps spread the message. And leave me a suggestion in the comment section on which topic you want to hear about. How's hijab like in your country? And what's your funny hijab encounter? Everyone enjoys a good laugh. Also, follow us on Instagram at mithqal.media and tag us with your best hijab photos. We either like it or troll it. Let's be frank. Yeah. Like, subscribe, do the bell thingy if you're on YouTube. I'll see you in the next episode. Keep hustling.